Hi again. This is Mari again. This is my second video blog. The first one, following my first one about my blind experience. So for this one, I chose to participate in, I chose to go to a Muslim community center and talk to some Muslim sisters and brothers, as they call all the people who participate in the Muslim faith, and participate in a prayer session as well. And the reason I chose this is because I was raised Catholic and I know a lot about Christianity, and I consider myself partly Christian at least. And I know I have a lot of Jewish friends, so I know a lot about Judaism as well. But the third religion, being Muslim, is something that I knew very little about. I only have one friend who's Muslim, and he doesn't really talk about it very much. So I thought this would be very educational for me, especially because I am very interested in different beliefs and like how it affects and comes into play into people's lives. But yeah, so first I talked to a brother and a sister separately because the place was very empty when I went. And my first impression when I went in there was it was very interesting. I could immediately tell that there was a separation of men and women. There was a women's prayer room and a men's prayer room. And there were like some things that like you just weren't like. I felt like I had to be very careful because I didn't know what the traditions there were. You had to take your shoes off to go in to the prayer rooms. And so the brother gave me some information and told me when the next prayer session was, and I asked, oh, is it okay if I participate? Even though I'm kind of an outsider, I don't really practice the religion or believe in it. He was like, yeah, no, that's, back in the day, I guess, like, the Prophet Muhammad, or someone who's representative of their religion was okay with, like, Christian people participating. So he's like, well, if they're okay with it, then we're okay with it. So that was my first worry. So that made me very relieved that I could participate even though I was an outsider, and that they're welcome to that. And then so I came, but then after that I went to the women's prayer room and there was a sister in there, and I thought originally sister and brother meant like priests or nuns, but it means just anyone who practices the faith. And apparently anyone who practices faith there is like really open to like educating new people and answering any questions about the religion and the culture. So I met this woman. She was about my age, like 25-ish, and she sat down with me and she just talked to me about her beliefs for the longest time. And she was really nice. Like, I wanted to ask about the differences between Muslim belief and practice and Christian belief because I saw a lot of similarities while I was there when I was looking through the Quran, their Bible of sorts. And it was interesting. Like, another reason I wanted to do this is because I feel like, Muslim people, they get such a bad rep nowadays, especially in the news. And if you're not educated, like, you tend to judge people and think it's like an extreme religion. But like everything she was telling me, it was just very similar to Christianity. Like, people like pray 5 times a day, so it's a big part of their life. It's a big presence every day. But like from this younger woman I was talking to, she was just like, at the end of the day, it's about what you believe in, like what feels right in your heart, and just trying to be a good person and be grateful for your life. And that's just very similar to Christianity. So I mean, it was just it was very interesting. And then later I came back for the prayer session, and that again, it was a big contrast for me because I felt like I was doing a lot of the same things that I did in like Catholic mass, but it was totally different, the setup. Again, they separated men and women in different rooms, and then the women could see the men, but the men could see the women, because apparently they need to separate us during prayer or like religious meditation, because women are a big distraction apparently sexually to men, but women themselves don't see men as such a distraction. So, like, either they're in separate rooms and women can only see the men can't see the women, or the women are all grouped behind the men, so they can see the men, but the men can't see them. And they wear these hijabs that cover everything except their face. I mean, they have these, like, long dresses. So that was very interesting. But yeah, so during the prayer session, it was really short itself, which which was nice in comparison to the very long masses that I'm used to. But yeah, it's just a very open room, no furniture, just a bunch of beautiful rugs laying out at the front of the room. And during prayer, it was very interesting because the women, they line up in a line next to each other, but they do it very closely. So you're literally touching your feet to and your shoulders to the people next to you. So that was kind of surprising for me. I wasn't expecting that. So there's definitely, like, you don't have your own, like, bubble. So you have to be okay with interacting with other people. But at the same time, like, after standing there for a minute or two, it was, like, kind of nice because you feel this closeness to the people next to you. And even though you don't know them, like, everyone's just so willing. Like, people just kept coming in and they would just assume their position next to the person. It wasn't awkward at all. You can feel like they kind of swayed in place and they'd readjust their footing, but it was just all normal to them. And it was nice because I kind of very much felt like an outsider there because I didn't have the hijab and I was the only white person in the room. But they were all very welcoming. Like, they just immediately put me into their group. And so I didn't know anything was being said because it was all being read in Arabic. But there were, again, a couple similarities. Like, I could tell he said Amin, like Amen. So I could do that part, which was nice. But yeah, so mostly I just followed the woman next to me who kindly offered to show me the moves or what they do. But yeah, so, and it was very different but very same, which was just very odd for me. Like, the whole setup was different, the clothes they were wearing, the words they were saying, the gestures they were doing, but at the same time, they were it's based on a very similar story, the same story about Jesus and Christ and the prophets. So I could tell that some of it was like basically they were saying the same things in a prayer that we would in a Christian church. I just couldn't understand any of it. And at first, when I was putting my head on the ground, I didn't know what to do. I know I was supposed to pray and say I was grateful for life, but it just felt very awkward because we do very little. I mean, we do that in church, but usually I think of a specific situation. So even for this, like, at first I felt awkward, but then once I thought about things in my life that I wanted to pray about, it became much easier and natural to me, even though I didn't understand the language everyone else was talking in. And then after the prayer, the women stayed there and they all started talking, and I guess this happens every time, but there was an immense sense of community. Like, these people didn't know each other at all, they'd never met before, but, like, they were very much just, like, they just wanted to stay and get to know each other, and they just talked about where they were from and how they got taught their religion, and just what's going on with their life right now. And it was very nice. Like, at the end of the day, I felt that despite all the differences about where all these people came from, like, one woman was from Yemen, one was from Pakistan, one was from India. At the end of the day, it was very similar to, like, other religions, well, specifically Christianity, because it was all about the community. It was all about, welcoming new people who want to explore and want to find their own religious truth. Yeah, so I'm really glad that I went because it definitely helped erase a lot of the stereotyped images that the news and other stupid things give me. And just really helped me realize that it's actually, like, basically, if Christianity was a three-sided dice, I feel like, I mean, even more than Judaism, though, I feel like Christianity and, the religion of Muslim is almost two sides of the same coin. But again, I know very little, so that's just like my first impression. But it's really nice to know that, you know, despite the different countries and cultures and languages and the attire and all of that, the basics are still very similar. So, yeah, I thought that was really cool. Okay, thank you for listening.